I can assure you that the next 1 hour will leave you with some proven technologies and tools which will help your organization not only to scale faster, but scale with ease and sustain the scalability. I am Devendra, your host for today's session, along with my partner Neeraj. We are founders of ResponsiveB. ResponsiveB is a young organization with a team of experts who have an average industry experience of 20 years and have coached organizations of all sizes, complexity, and in different domains in their scaling journey. We can collaborate with you on different aspects of scaling, like we can help to strategize your transformation on scaling the right way, being with you and your team along with the journey as coaches and partners. We can train your leaders, managers, and team on various aspects of scaling. And we can align with you also by enabling people in your enterprise to think innovatively and to overcome any scaling challenges that they face. With this and no further ado, let's start our session for today. We all love stories and we all relate to it. So let me start off with a very famous and a very inspiring story of scaling. This is about a music streaming company. Yes, a music streaming company which has done software product development scaling in a very inspiring way. I'm talking about Spotify. Spotify was founded in 2008 by Daniel and Martin. And very soon they got the traction and the need of scaling it. And scaling means adding new features, adding more people to your organization. And believe me, back then, there were no standard frameworks, there were no standard guidelines which could have supported them. So what they did for scaling? They understood that it is the power of the network, it is the power of the team which has helped them to take to a level of scaling so soon. And they wanted to keep it intact. So what they did is that they kept that network intact by forming squads out of the new team. And every squad was cross-functional in nature, which means that every squad has all the required skill set to deliver on the commitment that they used to have. They have a business representative to guide them on what business is looking forward to as a product owner. They have the developers, the testers, and all the other required skill set. Now, they were also having a very close guidance with the leadership and also with the expert coaches who can help them or guide them to put in the right process and practices in place. They can always reach out to them. Another good thing that they did with the squad was that they gave them all the required autonomy, they gave them all the required knowledge so that they can run like a standalone startup. Now, when they started this practice, gradually there were like some 50, 60 odd squads. Now, let's imagine that those 50 squads, they were running in their own directions. What would have happened today? We might not have Spotify as we are seeing it today. And definitely, Dadian and Martin did not want it to have it like that. We could have, more than 50 new startups, someone in music streaming industry, someone, coming up with a new OTT platform, everyone running in their own directions. That is not what they wanted as an organization. They wanted everyone to be aligned and moving in with one goal and one direction. And to achieve that, they came up with a concept known as tribe. Now, what is a tribe? Tribe is just a collection of these squads, which is helping them to get aligned with a larger organization vision and goals. So as you know, Spotify had different functions and different features. So what they did is that they created multiple tribes and tribe of tribes, wherein every tribe used to have one goal, one larger vision, which was then aligned to the organization goal and organization vision. And these tribes, they used to collaborate on the frequent pre-decided event so that they can make sure that they are still aligned on the larger goal. They used to demo their work together to the larger audience to ensure that what they are doing, what is their outcome, that is as per the organization vision and goal. Many other organizations, after Spotify's success, they wanted to copy the Spotify model. They tried to build a squad by collecting teams. They tried to build the tribes, but very few got even 10% of what Spotify's success was there. And the reason was very simple. They missed the soul of the thing. And what was the soul of it? The soul of Spotify transformation or scalability was not building the squads and the tribe or doing the events. The soul was providing the squads with a high level of autonomy, making sure that everyone is aligned with the organization goal and vision. They were making sure that organization have some kind of alignment and consistency when it comes to the larger organization practices, but at the same point in time, they have a lot of flexibility at local level. And they did not define, one large framework, one large process that everyone has to follow. They understood that local contexts are very different from an organization or a global context. So they said that as a squad, you have all the autonomy, you have all the rights to decide how do you want to function till the point you are aligned, your outcome is aligned with the larger organization goal. So you can follow standard practices that we have in today's time. You can follow Scrum, you can follow Kanban, you can do something mixed. It all depends on you. You can follow one technical practice or the other, but when it comes to the architecture, you cannot start building your own architecture. It really need to get aligned with the overall Spotify platform architecture. So we as coaches, we have been fortunate to work with various organizations, help them in their scaling journey. And what we understood by reading this different organization, one which are able to do it in the right way, one who have struggled, we try to carve out some common factors. Why do people face challenges when they are scaling? And some of the common factors that we could find out, the very first is that as soon as an organization starts scaling, there is a communication gap. Now, why there is a communication gap, we will discuss in detail, but basically people become more selfish towards their own goal rather than an organization goal. And this communication gap result into lack of collaboration. And finally, there is no alignment with the one common goal of the organization. When there is no alignment, there is no collaboration, it results into lack of predictability because people are running into different directions. Rather than keeping their customer in focus, their own might be the functional goal or their own personal goals, they take the priority, and that's where predictability and the outcome is hurt. And the final value delivery is not as it was visioned at the very start. Now, if you have to bring this into track, the very first approach which any organization is going to take is that at the 11th hour, they will either try to add more people, right? They will try to add more money on the marketing side or try to add more money on the sales side, rather than they should have been investing more on building a more robust product. So therefore, managing cost at the right place so that they build the right product in the right way for their customer, they're spending it at some or the other places. And all this was because there was no standardization at a high level. So we try to look deeper and see that how could we solve these challenges, because that's what we are doing day in and day out. So as I said, we very clearly realize that as an organization, we need the power of collaboration, we need alignment, we need innovation. But at the same point in time, if any organization, it is growing, it will also need some stability. It will also need some standardization. And that's what hierarchies give you. You build different functions, you build different LOBs. The only reason is that they give you a certain amount of stability. And we wanted best of both the world. And see, it is not practically possible that, let's say today I am a big hierarchical organization. I have a realization suddenly that I need network. What should I do? Should I stop my business for the coming 6 months? I ask all my employees, hey, go home, sit there for 6 months. I will not be able to pay you. We are going for a larger change. So what should we do now? We will change everything, call you back after 6 months. What's going to happen? Another competitor would be there who would be serving my customers. My people are going to join someone else and we'll be out of the market. So it's more like, we have to fix the engine of a running car. So what we do when we have to do this, we have to bring in some practices, some tools, some framework, which can help me change the direction, fix my car when it is running. And that is what we are going to talk about in the rest of the session today. And we'll do this so that finally we achieve our higher goal of building the right product in the right way for our customers. Certain standard practices which will help us to do that. Very first thing is that we need to build a value stream. Now, how is this value stream going to help us? We'll discuss it in detail, but at a high level, you can understand that this is the single factor which will help us to align all the teams to a common goal and a common vision. It will give us the complete visualization of why my team is working and on what my team is working, what are the different bottlenecks and impediments. Once we develop a value stream, it will automatically help us with the alignment on a common goal and mission with the other practices that we'll talk about. And eventually it will result in building a high quality system. Now, when I say high quality system, the general response that I have got from many organizations is that, hey, why do you talk so much about quality? We have a very great testing team. We have also done certain amount of automation. What else can you add to it? My point is very simple. Why quality is always taking the last place? Why it is always the 11th player? See, we cannot inject quality. That is not practically possible to inject quality. If something is good, it is good. So, you can add a bit of salt on your food, but that will not improve the complete taste. So you have to cook it into the right way. You have to make sure all the ingredients are right. Start when you are starting to buy the vegetables, right? So you have to buy the fresh vegetables, slice it in the right way, put the right amount of oil. Everything has to be right. Similarly, quality has to be a part of every activity that you are doing. You are planning, you are strategizing, you are writing your backlog, you are thinking about your product, your customers. Development comes at a very later stage. And that's what we'll talk about. And eventually, by doing all this, we can build a certain amount of predictability in the system in terms of what can be delivered and when it can be delivered, how we can take it to our customers so that there's no surprises for anyone. With this, I'll take a pause here. If there are any questions, I'd like to answer it before we move ahead. Okay, so if you don't have any further questions, I'll invite my partner Neeraj to take the discussion forward. Over to you, Neeraj.
Thank you, Devinder. If I may ask for the share, I can start sharing my part.
All yours.
Okay, thank you. So, like Devinder rightly mentioned, that scaling has lot many challenges, and just before this slide, we were talking about the various common challenges that you would see while you are scaling, and what exactly needs to be done to make sure that you overcome these scaling challenges the very first recommendation in terms of bringing in a change from the organization perspective is definitely to look at building your value streams. If you already have value streams, go back and look whether they are beneficial to you. And if not, go back and reorganize those value streams. So let me very briefly talk about what is meant by a value stream and how is it beneficial. Number one, the concept of value stream was popularized and was one of the early adopters that was done by Alan C. Ward. And he was, in fact, the lean coach for Harley Davidson. And there he made this interesting statement that you should align your organization around projects and product lines. Because Harley Davidson was creating new innovative bikes, they wanted to make sure that every bike, every product line they are building has to be organized around value so that the following advantages can be achieved. Now, look at these advantages. If you have your organization built with the product lines, how are people, how are the various activities, how are the various steps aligned to deliver value currently in your organization behaving? Which means, if you have a value stream defined and right from concept to cash, right from idea to value realization, if all the people that are required, all the steps that are needed are aligned to deliver value, that ends up becoming like a value stream. Which means the very first advantage that you would definitely see is because people are all aligned, people have a definite goal of delivering value, you would see very fewer hands-offs. This is very important because if there are very fewer handoffs, obviously there are going to be less of gaps or sometimes, no gaps at all in an ideal situation. And people have a common understanding about value, which means the work or the value is not waiting inside the organization and it eventually leads to a faster value delivery to the customer or to the target market. At the same time, because everybody is aligned, everybody is in it together, which means it's easier to build value and faster delivery also happens. But like I mentioned briefly earlier, it also leads to a better quality, which we call as the built-in quality, because most of the times quality does suffer when people work in silos or there are huge batches of work. And that is where, complexity and uncertainty creep in, and people have a very different understanding. And it often leads to not high quality or a deteriorated quality. The other important benefit a value stream definitely helps is that while people might be working on the technological aspect, it is the business or your sales and marketing that better understand your target market and your customers. And because there is a value stream that is already aligned inside the organization, this leads to a better and sometimes quite high understanding between business and technology, which means, whatever the technology team is delivering, business can definitely know it beforehand, whether it is as per the expectations of the target market or the customer. And the last advantage that we have seen happening in a value stream is that coming from the systems thinking approach, rather than optimizing a component or a part, when we optimize the entire value stream, it brings in larger and better benefits as compared to a single component, single team, or a single path inside the value stream. And combining all these advantages, what we definitely have seen happening in a lot of transformation journeys and a lot of changes that we bring in the organization, that value streams do definitely improve on faster time to market, which means faster deliveries, leads to better and higher built-in quality, which means whatever the customer expectation was is not different from what the teams deliver. And because of the value going out faster to the market, to the customer, and with an improved quality and with also an option to make changes faster, leads to higher customer satisfaction. So definitely these are the advantages of value streams. But also keep in mind, if you are working in an IT organization, in a software development organization, it might not be very easy to identify your value streams, which means you might need help of lean agile change agents, agile coaches, transformation change agents to make sure they help you and enable you to identify and form your value streams. Coming to the next change that Devendra spoke about was definitely to get an alignment. And remember, one of the best advantages of alignment have been that if the entire organization, including leaders, including managers, including people, they all look in the single direction, they all get a better understanding and they all feel motivated. Which means one of the biggest benefit of alignment is that you are using the entire synergy of the organization to focus on your customer or to the target market. And like we spoke earlier, deliver value faster with better built-in quality. Now, some of the uses of getting an goal alignment definitely comes from usage of OKRs, which is now gaining quite popularity because the way it brings in benefits to the organization. And I will talk about these benefits as well. I will talk about certain scenarios in which OKRs can be used. For people who don't know, OKRs stands for Objectives and Key Results, which means it is a direction setting for the organization, for the portfolio, to let its people, let the customers also know what are the kind of goals we are setting for a particular time period, and what are the results that we expect to achieve by going in that direction. And the scenarios that I have brought to you are around how do you use OKRs to have a better alignment of strategy, to have better alignment on the work outcomes, for example, epics in your portfolio, in your organization. And finally, OKRs can also be used to bring in a direction for even the transformation of the entire organization. And I'm going to discuss a few examples of how these OKRs can be used. So for example, if there is a portfolio, which is a collection of multiple product lines or multiple products if you are using, the portfolio definitely needs to have a direction in place so that, first of all, it can guide the product lines and the related people to know what is the direction that we are taking and why. And in this example, I have taken, for example, an autonomous transport portfolio may set certain objectives. And as an example, it can be to achieve, say, a dominant position within the autonomous delivery market. Now, look closely. There are two product lines that are be part of the same portfolio. And what they do is they look at these OKRs. They take part of that OKR into each of those value streams that are created around it, which means they have their own OKRs. And, they might trickle it down to their level to say, part of one of the OKRs is being achieved by one value stream, and the other part is being achieved by the other value stream. And going down further, drilling down further, these OKRs can be further broken down at each team level to help them achieve their team goals. So, for example, one of the agile teams can possibly take a part of that OKR and to say, that they are going to streamline and accelerate order to delivery, whereas the other team can set their goal as towards the customer solutions. And whenever there is a change or a refreshment in the pricing strategy, their systems or solutions or features that they are building will also reflect the same OKR that was defined at the portfolio and at the value stream level. So this is one of the very interesting ways, a very effective way for the entire portfolio and the value streams that are part of it and the agile teams beneath it to make sure they are all aligned in the same direction and they are hence delivering value faster to the customer, to the market. And whenever there is a change that is expected, can also be incorporated seamlessly within that portfolio. The other example that I took about was how OKRs can be used to set improvement goals for the transformation. And again, as an example, you can see, if the overall transformation outcome, for example, is to improve time to market or to increase the employee engagement and job satisfaction, or maybe to even increase the quality, at each level within the portfolio, you might see the OKRs getting transformed into different kinds of key results. For example, the autonomous delivery may have reduction of MTTR, mean time to resolution, for delivery vehicle problems and to improve satisfaction ratings and the quality of the software. Similarly, if any value stream, agile teams or arts are being launched, all of them might again take part of the key result. For example, the platform may look at covering adequate test coverage across the entire platform, maybe reduce some overheads related to build and deploy activities, which means they are making releases much faster, or maybe look at developing industry skills in validation and maintaining verification. So this is how alignment happens within a portfolio, within an organization, with the help of OKRs. Now, when we talk about alignment, it is also very important that, like Devinder mentioned, to really understand the real need of the customer and the target market to make sure you are building the right product and you are building it the right way as well. And this is where one of the interesting tools that typically brings in alignment between the customer and the organizations that are delivering solutions corresponding to some of the hypotheses is the usage of design thinking. Now, design thinking, very generally also called as a double diamond loop. And as you can see, there are two areas or two loops that have been defined. The first one being understanding the problem, because unless we do not understand the problem correctly, obviously the second loop, which means we cannot design the right solution according to the problem that has been defined. And this is also called the diverge and the converge loops, because when you start understanding the problem, you might have multiple problems in hand and you diverge to see what kind of problems are there. But definitely you will have to converge back to focus and work on a few problems at a time. Similarly, when you are designing the right solutions, based on those few problems that you have selected, you might have multiple solutions. But at the same time, you will have to converge back to focus on only a few solutions. And the characteristics of those solutions should be that they should be viable in the market, they should be desirable by the end customers, they are feasible to be built. But in the longer run, they are also sustainable enough, which means it is not just like a flash in the pan that comes into the market and to the customers and then disappears. A lot of techniques, a lot of ways in which you also understand the problem are mentioned out here. For example, you might do Gemba walks. That means figure out, looking at the solutions, visiting the place where actual work is happening to identify some of the problems. Or there are a lot of market research, user researches that happen that make sure that problems that are being faced by the customers are known to such organizations. Similarly, when you converge back, there are personas that help you identify what kind of problems you should relate to. And then the empathy maps that will also help you identify how are you empathizing or putting yourself in the customer's shoes to really relate to these problems. Similarly, when you are diverging from the solution side, there are journey maps, there are story mapping techniques that are available. But when you converge back to identify a few solutions, prototyping is one of the techniques that really helps you identify, are we building a solution that really helps solve a customer problem or need of the market that you are targeting. Now, let me go and highlight and talk about one of the ways in which we really try and relate to the customer problems is to do empathy mapping, which means creating a fictitious persona which resembles or showcases the characteristics of our customer market. We create maybe one or more personas and try and see how those personas are going to react, how are those personas going to use our solutions, and this helps us better understand the customer need. For example, out here, a persona called Jonathan, who's based out of USA and he's around 36 years of age, has these characteristics, which means he's a working dad with 3 children. He also loves music, which means he wants to spend as much time with his family as possible. And he also wants that his packages deliver faster to him so that, again, there is no wastage in time in tracing those packages. Apart from that, he has also mentioned, how he loves technology, how he's sometimes not available on home on weekends, and again, his wife doesn't have much time to spare to help. Looking at this persona or keeping this persona in mind, you would try and understand how are we empathizing with such personas. Which means, first of all, if the solution that you have in mind is given to such a persona, you would also need to understand what are they supposed to do or what do they need to do, which also indicates a possible change in the behavior. They also might need to understand from the persona perspective, what is the persona hearing, maybe from other competitors, maybe as advertisements, maybe as what do they also see when they look at the hoardings, the flyers, the brochures of other products and other competitors. And what do they need to do to make sure they achieve the real need or they solve the problem for which you have devised a solution, which also means you cannot ignore their emotions, and you also need to understand what does a persona think and feel, because all these combined help you define your better solution and make sure, like I said earlier, these solutions should be desirable, feasible, viable, and sustainable in the market. Now, once you have identified such a solution, an interesting way in which you can also have better designed solutions is to look at journey maps. A lot of times, organizations that are into software development and IT might be working for customers like banks and healthcares and hardware manufacturing, which might have their own customers further, which we call as end users. It is very important for these organizations to understand how their end users behave. And a representation is done through a journey map, which shows how your end users, with their emotions, go through various steps to achieve the value along with the customer that you are working for. And down below, as you can see, there are multiple technology opportunities for an IT or a software development organization. Now, looking at the various moods the end user might go through. So, for example, at each of those steps of decide, learn, choose, apply, and purchase a home loan, as an example shown out here, you might see the end user having different kinds of emotions. So, for example, if the customer is or the end user is not very happy with learn or with the choose step, as a technology opportunity, you might like to bring in some technological advancement, some features in the systems or the solutions that you are building to make sure they feel much more satisfied than they right now are in the entire journey in which they are receiving value from a bank in this example. And this is where it brings in a lot of insights for IT and software development organizations to figure out how can we really deliver the right kind of value to our end users, and how do we build the right kind of products for such customers. So eventually, all this translates into the backlog of features and epics that an organization might look at. And this brings in a great alignment, not only within the organization, but also with your customers and end users. So we spoke about alignment. How does the alignment really help out here? And earlier, Devinder also spoke about that organizations do need to focus on quality, and quality should not come towards the end like a patch, but always should be inculcated or ingrained. And that is why we use the word called built-in quality. Now, when we say quality, nowadays it just doesn't mean setting up the requirements or the needs of the customer. It might also indicate about different aspects of the system which are so important in today's world. For example, if I talk about quality, I might also need to start looking at how do I eliminate waste, because at the end of the day, I do not want my people to work on wasteful activities. At the same time, I also do not want the value to be delayed because of some wasteful processes that I have set up in my organization. Similarly, build quality in is the point where the hypothesis, whenever it is being incepted, whenever it is being thought about, quality aspect should start creeping in there and then. So for example, a product manager, when he's defining the features, should also start thinking about the quality aspect of the system, which nowadays includes maybe your non-functional requirements, maybe the kind of development deployments that are needed in the environment. Maybe it also requires rethinking about how customers across the world are going to connect with our systems and solutions, and whether they will feel any lag or not. Now, it's also very important that the quality has to be brought in the terms of alignment in knowledge between people, so that everybody has the same understanding. And if not, people might end up creating different aspects of the system or the solution not aligned with the real value need of customers. Defer commitments talk about starting late because you want to collect as much as information possible, and you have the best possible information when you start. But at the same time, you deliver as fast as possible, because at the end of the day, you do not want as an organization to delay and delay value to your customers, delay value to the entire target market. At the end, it's all about people, because the people are the ones who are creating value and systems and solutions for your customer. And optimize the whole, which I mentioned earlier, is about looking at the systems as a whole. And this concept is actually coming from the systems thinking approach that we spoke briefly about earlier. Now, when you talk about built-in quality, let us also not forget that there is an entire area inside the agile world that has been borrowed from extreme programming practices. And some of these practices are mentioned out here, which are very popularly used in the software world. So for example, we have BDD, behavior-driven developments. Correspondingly, we have test-driven developments, which means, both these practices, when used in conjunction, make sure that your target market, your end customers, really do some kind of a testing, and they have some kind of value in mind, and you drive your solutions and systems from that value perspective. And so many other technical practices that you can also see are mentioned out here. For example, collective code ownership, peer programming, agile architecture, automation, set-based design, shifting left so that there is a better testing applicable as early as possible. And later on, this also helps build up the T-shaped skills, a continuous delivery pipeline, and you separate out releases from deployments, because both of them are independent aspects of any system or solution. Now, when we talk about waste management, it is very easy to identify waste in the manufacturing world, because the product or the outcome is very clearly visible, which means, you can see waste around inventory, around extra processing, overproduction, transportation, sometimes work is waiting, or there is, a work in motion, and of course, defects. But when it comes to the software world, it is very important to identify these ways, because work per se is not very clearly visible. Which means look at, if you have work which is partially done, or are you working on too many processes, or are you building features which nobody uses? Is your team also switching tasks, which means they are context switching and might end up creating bad quality systems and solutions? Or just like the manufacturing, is the work waiting inside the organization, or is it in motion and are you creating defects? Now, one of the ways in which you can really identify waste inside your software development is to do a value stream mapping, which clearly looks at the different steps that you are going to take and try and identify, is the work really waiting inside that value stream? Which means, as an example, if the work needs to be delivered in X number of weeks or X number of days, is the work getting delivered in number of days, or it's taking more number of days and more number of weeks, right? But at the same time, the organization should not fall in the utilization trap, because the organizations in the waterfall world, in the traditional way, always used to bring in utilization as the core concept for identifying the kind of work to be done. And if you start increasing number of people inside a value stream, just because the value is getting delayed, it further adds to that utilization trap. So make sure organizations religiously and dedicatedly use the concept of value stream mapping to identify where are the possible wastes inside the organization. Now, at the end, this all boils down to what we call as creating predictabilities. Unless you do not have predictabilities in the organization, work does not become predictable and your customers do not feel they are getting delivered value at the right time. Now, some of the techniques that we have seen, which really helps bringing in better predictabilities, is to have, number one, get all the right people to come and plan together. Remember, traditionally, it might have been the responsibility of just a few people, the project managers and the leads. Nowadays, when the teams are empowered, they should all come together, plan together, identify dependencies and risks, and this creates a better plan and have better chances of getting delivered whenever you want to build such a right solution. At the same time, if you have multiple teams working together, make sure all the teams have a same cadence and they synchronize regularly by bringing in a lot of practices that require a deeper discussion. But at the same time, it is equally important to make sure everybody understand the flows at their respective level, which means, leadership should know how are the products flowing and do they have a seamless flow inside the organization. Vis-a-vis, the teams at the product creation level should also see and improve any such flows that they might have at their level. Keep in mind, unless you do not integrate frequently the work, the different skills, the different aspects of your solutions, and you do not demo it also frequently, you will miss the chance to get a feedback, and again, your predictabilities might suffer. Just briefly before this, we spoke about how the organizations might fall for the utilization trap, which means do not look at utilizing your people 100%, because overloading people with the work definitely creates bad quality, which may hit your predictability as well. And at the end of the day, it is not everything that should go down to the team for decision making, but neither should stay with the senior management for all the levels. There should be a right mix of centralized and decentralized decision making to make sure decisions at the right level by the right people creates in faster value delivery and hence brings in predictability. So these were the various ways in which we tried to summarize how does, first of all, scaling, which is much needed aspect for any organization in today's world, and that's a reality. On the one side, what we are saying is, yes, startups and SMEs are good, but someday they also need to get ready for scaling up in terms of people, in terms of processes, in terms of more features in these solutions, or maybe more product lines. But along with any other change, you will also witness a lot of challenges. And Devendra briefly highlighted those challenges, saying you will see challenges around collaboration, which also includes communication. You will see when you scale how your value delivery might get hurt, how managing costs will become an equal challenge when you are scaling. And finally, standardization with quality is going to be another important aspect that needs your attention whenever you scale. Some of the recommended solutions that we define today, and this is of course not the exhaustive list, was to identify and define or maybe reorganize your value streams, try and bring in alignment. And one of the ways, a very effective one, is to bring in OKRs. Similarly, quality has to be built in, will not come as a patch towards the end. And finally, making sure predictabilities are in place, which means management, your people, your customers are all aware what is the right time of getting a right solutions. And with all these scaling challenges, you would definitely need to have some kind of a transformation roadmap required. And again, the help of leaders, especially you guys who are running the organization, who are making sure that your people are getting the right kind of support. Definitely, your involvement is the key. But it's also that you would need to look at some kind of lean agile change agents that have experience, that have been in the trenches, that have done it in the past, to come and work for your organizations to take it to new levels of scaling. So this is where I end my today's webinar. Thank you so much. Please reach out to us at www.responsiveb.com. You can visit our website. All our contact details are out there. And in case you need any further information from us, please do not hesitate to reach out any of us, and we'll be there with you for any kind of discussion. Now I'm pausing here. I'm holding here for a while to see if there are any questions. Both Devendra and I will try and answer those questions for you.
Sure.
Hi, Neeraj and Devendra. I can see a couple of questions. Let me read them. The first one is, how do we know in an organization that there are any scaling challenges, and how are these visualized?
Pranay, if you can also paste this in the chat so that people can read it as well. Yes, so Devendra, you would like to take this up?
Neeraj, you can take this one. I'll go for
Okay,
it.
sure. Sure. See, my perspective is that, first of all, the areas that are very clearly visible are going to be that, some of the impact of scaling is visible on your outcomes. So, for example, if you are creating some products while you are not scaling, but then when you suddenly start scaling, you will see those products or those outcomes missing their deadlines. Or sometimes to make sure those deadlines, to cover up for those deadlines, teams and people and the organizations may start cutting corners and end up creating bad quality products. So similarly, you might see people are not aligned on the understanding of such a product when you are scaling, because as you scale, everybody does not build the right kind of understanding at the right time. So these are some of the scaling challenges that we have seen happening, as you start scaling. And how are these visualized? Now, if an organization is actually measuring, for example, they are measuring their time to market, they are measuring how is the customer satisfaction, they are also measuring what kind of quality are we building in. So they will start seeing a dip in these matrices, and that's a very clear indication that because you are scaling and the challenges that Devendra spoke about, those are actually not getting addressed. So I think in my view, these are some of the symptoms, or these are the visual indicators that will highlight that, hey, you're scaling, but then you are not probably doing it the right way, or maybe you are missing something somewhere. So that's, I think, my response to this question. Right.
Thank you, Neeraj. There's one more. Any example of alignment not happening in a company or product?
So, see, from my experience, I can share a couple of them. I'll give you a typical example. I've worked in both product organization and in service organization. I'll start with a service organization. What I have generally observed is that, I was working inside this one project wherein, we required some of the people from the development and the QA org. They all came in together and we started working. This project was almost like 3-4 months. So once we completed it, people went, back to their organization, and some of the QA folks, they were like aligned to some new project. But then when the issues and the bugs started coming, even after requesting the QA, we cannot get those people, because the focus of the QA organization was not to make this one project successful. It was more focused on building their own efficiency as a function. So they were not really aligned. Talking same about the product organization, I won't name the organization here, but it was more between the sales and the engineering team. So definitely, as a sales team, they might be having some pressures, and they went ahead and made some commitment with the customer without checking it back with the engineering team. Now, when it came back to the engineering team, they upfront told that because of the technology challenges and because of the certain skill set that they are not having, it will not be possible to deliver. It created a lot of confusion, and finally, we lost that customer. But that is a typical example where, functions not getting aligned. Finally, the leaders or the business is losing a customer, or the customer is impacted by giving a patchy product. So I have certain examples wherein, the implementation team, they tried to do some quick fix, worked for a couple of months, and then the customer has to face the challenges. Yeah, Praveen. So that's a 2 cents from my side.
That's great. That's great.
Thanks, Devendra. There's one more. So I think now public is in a mood to asking of the question. So how can an organization measure the effect of scaling solution provided by you? So Neeraj or Devendra, who want to take this question?
Yeah. So I'll take this one. So see, when we as a group enter, or let's say, forget about us, let's say you are planning to do any transformation, right? Pranay, can you paste the question in the chat box just to make sure I'm getting it right? Just read the question once again.
So I will just repeat it. How can an organization measure the effect of scaling solutions provided by you?
Okay. Yeah. So see, whenever you decide about doing a transformation, or you have a need of scaling, before engaging any organization, you really have to sit and understand your pain point. If you are partnering with us, then we will help you even with the understanding portion, that what are the challenges you may face, very contextual to your particular culture, your particular domain, your people, your skill. And once we start the transformation, the scaling journey, we'll define certain metrics, right? Based on which we will measure your success, right? And see, if you are meeting those measures, definitely it will show the sign of a collaborative success. So first thing, it's not you versus us. We believe in a partnership mode wherein we will facilitate your organization in achieving their goal. Also, there are many standard surveys, there are many standard assessment. So even if you want to go to a third party and do an assessment to understand how your organization is ranking in terms of scaling practices vis-a-vis the other organization, you can go ahead and take those surveys. But majorly, I believe that defining your own milestone, defining your own vision and smaller goals to achieve it, that is what is going to help.
Thanks, Devendra. There's one more question. How can someone know whether there are a value stream in an organization or not?
Yeah. So I'll try and answer this. See, remember, like I mentioned, in the manufacturing world, it's very easy to get an idea of the value stream because work, like a car, like a product, is actually very clearly visible, right? But in an IT organization, in a software organization, the tricky part is the work is invisible. And that is where, identifying a value stream becomes another tricky part to it. Now, what are some indications whether an organization doesn't have a value stream? Let's talk about that first. Remember the benefits that I had shown as part of the value stream. First of all, there will be fewer handoffs and fewer defects because it has been traditionally seen that most of the defects in the IT world, in the software world, gets created when people pass on the work or maybe the understanding of that work from one group to the other, which means, if developers are handing over the work to testers, by default, they will also pass on the gaps. They will not definitely explain it exactly the same way as they would have understood it, right? So this is one indication that probably the organization doesn't have a value stream, right? Second, a clear indication that I have seen in my experience is that even if people are working hard, people are sometimes, overspending their time, their weekends, sitting late. And despite all that, you're always missing the deadlines. You're not delivering your products and systems on time with quality. Looks like it is probably because there are no value streams defined, or maybe the value streams are partially defined, which means one part of it works smooth and seamlessly. The other part of the organization may not be again delivering it with the same speed, with the same quality, and with the same benefit as the part with the value stream is. So those are some indications that tell you that the organization probably does not have value streams. And third is people like us, Devendra and I, we are Lean Agile change agents. We have been working with transformation of organizations. Sometimes we come and we observe and we can tell you, hey, are you working in the most better manner in terms of value streams, or it's partial, or it's not even there. So all these things combined a lot of times give an indication, and then of course as you go deeper, the skeletons start tumbling out and you get to know how things are on the ground. Pranay.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Thank you for that answer. This one is interesting. Does any certification help to get an understanding of the transformation or scaling?
Yeah, certainly yes. So, see, in today's world, there are certain scaling bodies which will help you with standard practices and certification. To name, we have Scaled Agile. It is one of the most used scaling bodies. They have a very well-defined implementation plan. It's a huge knowledge of body, embodying, things from system thinking, lean, agile, and various other practices. They have certain set of certifications, which definitely, you can take as a start point. And apart from that, there are many other scaling bodies. So it's up to an organization what they want to choose.
Yeah, and just to add, these certification will only give you knowledge, right? At least you will know, hey, this is what it is, and these are some of the best practices in the world. But unless the organization doesn't practices, and just like every organization is unique, the change or the transformation will also be unique, right? So get people who have the experience, and then they can customize it for you. Like Devendra mentioned, certifications will give you that initial understanding or knowledge.
Yes, yes, Neeraj, I believe responsible will take care of that part. Yeah, there's a one more question. Do scaling solution provided by you are to be implemented one by one or together?
So, if I'm
I
understanding
think,
correct,
see, what we have shown out here are some of the practices, some of the ways in which different organizations, taking these changes sometimes together, sometimes in part, have benefited. We shared our experiences around that. But practically, what I have seen is, maybe going one step at a time is always beneficial. And there are a couple of reasons for it. First of all, you try and implement one part of it, you see how it's working, you take a feedback, you make some changes, and then you, bring in some customization. That is one advantage of doing it, going one at a time. At the same time, you do not want to change the entire organization or boil the entire ocean. It's always beneficial that you bring in a change slowly, because then people need to be accustomed, people need to be habitual of working in those practices. And that is where my recommendation is that, we should look at bringing in these changes, one by one. And of course, it's not the responsibility of one team or one set of people. Everybody together has to support each other to make it a success. And I think smaller is better for me. Devendra, what do you think?
I completely agree, Neeraj. And we have both seen, like boiling the ocean, what is the result? So, as per our experience, also, you have to create success stories, you have to learn from your failures. So it's always better to do POCs. So going step by step is always going to help them. So I think, Pranay, we are on top of the hour, so we can take one last question if we have.
No, we are done with the question, Devendra. All the questions have been asked. Thank you for that.
Okay. I believe I can see one more. It's in the Q&A. It is saying that as coaches, what all services mentioned here, so you provide. Okay, so we talked about our services initially. I'll just quickly go back to that slide. It might help. Just give me a second. Just give me a second here. I'll just go back to the slide. Yeah. So see, talking in terms of services, what all we have discussed here, we can help you in your strategy. So you are facing any scaling challenges, you have got your funding, or you have already scaled and you are looking how well or how best you can manage it. So we can partner and we can start working together. Let's say you have tried something, but you really are struggling to define the value stream. We can also do those event-based relationship, not a problem there. Somebody asked for training. Yes, we are also providing trainings. We are also a certified body with some of the scaling frameworks. So you can check it back on our website. We can also help you with the custom training if required, very much customized to your culture and your environment. We can help you with the best team also. So let's say you want to have some coaches which are on roll, and then you want us to work with them, or some scrum masters, we can do that. You want us to be involved with your team for a long-term coaching contract wherein our people are working on the floor, we can also work around that. So all in all, I can say is that, if you are into the phase of scaling, or if you are facing any challenges related to scaling, we can definitely partner and, get you to your goal. That's what I'd like to add. Anything else, Neeraj, you want to add here?
No, I think we covered all. So I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so I believe, we are on top of the hour. Thank you everyone for joining today. In case you have further questions, you want to engage further, you can go to our website. You can book a 30-minute free discussion slot with us. We'll be happy to hear you out and share our experience. So thank you very much. And with this, let's end the session today.